great. As we all over here having an awesome day. Um, I'm about to kick it with y'all about the paths of spiritual initiations, because in many different African cultures, man, all through across the board, what we actually find is that every culture has a system of initiation. There's a system of initiation in every culture that we go through, that we go into. One of the things to understand about the paths of initiation, and this is what we're going to speak about today, paths. Like, as an African American in America, what is your path of initiation? What is your spiritual goal with being initiated? Who are the spiritual people that will be responsible for initiating you? What exactly is initiation? These are some of the things that we have to ask, because some people's perception is that an initiation is just a ceremony. So you're going to come, you're going to pay for the ceremony and be off about your own way. And for other people, initiation is a teaching process. To other people, initiation is a rites of passage process. To where when you come into a spiritual tradition, you are taught these certain rules, you are taught these certain values that walk with you, and you live these principles and you live these values until you reach your next level of accomplishment, your next level of initiation. You see, for most of us, we think that initiation gives us power. Many of us think that. It's one of the biggest mistakes, thinking that initiation give you power, because it don't. I'm sorry, it don't. I don't care what your tata says. I don't care what your baba say. I don't care what your voodoo man say. There is no initiation that's going to give you power unless your initiator is teaching you. That's it. Period. And see, in your initiator, in this new age, trust me, the spirits do a lot of teaching. A lot. I'm going to repeat that. In this age, the spirits do a lot of teaching. More teaching than people. You see what I'm saying? So when we talk about spiritual initiation, from a spiritual perspective, most of us are mediums in root working. Most of us are seers in root working. Most of us are clairvoyant in root working. We already talking to spirits. We already talking to ghosts. You see? They're already teaching us. You see? Because the way that hoodoo and root working developed in America, we didn't have the names of spirits. We didn't have the songs, the mambo's, the cantos. We didn't have the ceremonies. Did we need them? We need everything African. Everything African we need. Did we adapt and utilized what we had and developed it into a whole system here in America, a whole way of thinking, a whole culture, a whole perspective, a whole perception? Yes, we did. We developed what we had, the remnants of West African civilizations, the remnants of West African voodoo, and the remnants of Central African civilizations, Bantu peoples. See, some people think that Bantu people only went to Puerto Rico, Haiti, Cuba. See, people think that Bantu people actually only went there. And no Bantu peoples came to America, so there shouldn't be any Palo Mayombe, or there shouldn't be any kind of Bantu-based religion, no Kimbanda or Umbanda or Candomblé. None of that should be over here, according to some people. You see? When the reality is, those same people you find in Brazil that come from Angola and Congo, they came here to South Carolina. They came here to North Carolina. They came here to Virginia. They came here to Georgia and Florida. Check the books. When you go to I think it's the Avery Institute downtown Charleston, But when you go to the Avery Institute, one of the places you can go to check the slave ships records. I keep telling people that. You can check the slave ship records. Right there. Avery Institute. And you open this records up, 185,000 Congolese enslaved Africans from Congo came into Carolinas in the early 1717 when these ships came in. And it was an influx through these ships. It's an influx with over the next couple of years, 3-year period, that there were over 100 and something thousand. Over 100,000 Congolese people brought straight through the ports of Charleston, straight through Edisto Island. So what do we say about that? When we look at Edgefield, South Carolina, and I want y'all to do the research on Edgefield, South Carolina, they had an archaeological dig there, and under the slave quarters, because this is how archaeologists do it. Let me explain to y'all how they do it. They go into the old slave plantations, and our ancestors couldn't stay in the house. We already knew that. They had to stay outside in little small white huts. The little small white huts you see. The common practice of our ancestors, what they used to do when they would hide books, because you got to remember, we were not allowed to read. So we would hide books, we would hide spiritual items and things from our rituals under the floor, inside the hut, under the floor. So what happened when archaeologists started digging under the huts, lo and behold, they find this vase. This vase actually has the Congo cosmogram painted inside of it, exactly how it is in Congo. Exactly. Right in Edgefield, South Carolina. So these people who were study pottery in South Carolina with the face jugs. All of the face jugs have faces of Minkeses and Nkeses that come out of Congo. And these face jugs became popular in South Carolina. Very popular. These face jugs were used as grave markers in South Carolina. These face jugs actually has a story to them, a life of their own. Where when we look at the face jugs, we say, oh man, that thing looks like a spirit. Yes, it do. Because it houses a spirit. And in our tradition, the Geechee Galo tradition, for many of us, these face jugs back and during that time were taken to the graves of our deceased relatives and placed there with specific rituals done to assist our relative from crossing over into the spirit realm, and so that no other dark spirits could come through and attack the family of the deceased relative. You see? And that's all was based on his karma. Because if you go into the spirit, get you got a culture, you go into the spirit world, a bad person, some of that thing will trickle back to your family after you're dead. So there are certain rites that were done to ensure that that spirit travels on and that no nefarious spirits come back to attack the person's family. And the face jug that they found in Edgefield, South Carolina, among other places, they found thousands of them. But this particular one, amongst others, had the Congo cosmogram inside of it. Painted, just like in Congo. You see? So those people, those Bantu people, were here. We are the descendants of those people. We are the descendants of West Africans. We are the descendants of indigenous people that are already here. Now, when we come to the question of indigenous people that were already here, guess who they were? A bunch of smart West Africans who were building ships. A bunch of smart Central Africans who were building ships thousands of years ago. Who knew navigation, who knew the science of navigation. They knew if they put this boat in this particular place in the ocean on their side, the current would automatically bring them to Brazil. The current will automatically land them at the tips of Florida. The current will automatically land them into the Carolinas. Because they knew navigation, sea navigation. Study. Go all the way back to Kemet. You'll see in ancient pyramid, they had books. They found books of maps. Maps. That's right, Christina. David Blake. He one of the people down there in South Carolina. One of the people that trying to like keep the tradition still up. Definitely. Definitely. But I'm telling you this, and you know the crazy part about it is that when you look on these auctions, you see that these relics, these things that were created by our ancestors that they find and digging up under slave huts, they're selling these things for $70,000. 70,000. Some of them, I read an article where one lady bought one, and she said when she bought it, she thought it was empty. And when she opened it, it had rusty nails, a quartz crystal inside of it, and some dried out herbs. You know what I mean? So that's proof that we were working face vessels. Just like an Nkisi, just like a Palero, your Tata, how he works in Ganga, or how he works in Nkisi, or how the Babalawo work with their Eshu, Legba, you know? Same way, we were working with the face jugs the same way. We lost the knowledge. We lost our connection to it of working with the spirits of the dead. We lost that. So we stuck straight with the root working. But now we do our own archaeological research and we start looking back and say, hey, hold up, my great-granddaddy been making these. What is this? And we start finding and building the connection. This face jug here looks like an Nkisi from Congo. So let's go to Congo and see how they build these Nkisis, and then we'll have an understanding on how our ancestors built the face jug, because these are the same people. This is the same science. So it's not as lost as people try to portray it to be. You know what I mean? It's not lost like that. It really ain't. There are people still handcrafting these vessels, but they're not out there teaching you. They're not out there teaching, well, you know, anybody else, but they're handcrafting these vessels and using them in their root work for themselves. You see, because within their family, they were able to retain specific knowledge about preparing spirit vessels. You see? Or if you talk to other root workers and people in the communities got together and discussed things and they shared knowledge. And that's how it's done. So as a root worker, you know, and when we talk about the paths of initiation, so as a root worker, right, David Drake, yeah, exactly, Christina. I read all this stuff, man. I've been on the site too. Yeah, I've been on the site too. But you know, as a root worker, it's like I am not a big fan of like what people call self-initiation. I'm not a big fan of it because when I tell people, if you were to tell somebody, well, you can self-initiate, who doesn't know nothing about metaphysics, who doesn't know nothing about African culture, who doesn't know nothing about magic, voodoo, or whatever you want to put it, they're going to get nowhere because you can't self-initiate through a book. You can't. Self-initiation is taught through spirits. Now, if your spirit comes down on you and teaches you things, then that's a form of spiritual initiation. Spiritual. Between you and your particular spirit, your guardian. You know what I mean? Your guardian spirit. Because your spirits are going to teach you. We are being programmed to run behind people to teach us. And for the most part, people are guides. I am a guide. I will teach you what I know to guide you to open up your own realities within yourself. That's what I teach. I don't teach you spiritual knowledge. Because the spiritual knowledge, we all have it. It's encoded in our DNA. My job is to teach you how to activate that power within yourself so that you can obtain that spiritual knowledge directly. And you don't have to obtain it through me. You see? This is how this really should work, but there are people that come on levels. So there are some people we will have to hold their hands and we have to guide them all the way through. Then there are some people we will have to give them little bits and then gone. Some people we give one thing here, this here, and they got it. There are different levels of people. So when you're talking about spiritual initiations and self-initiations, that is not for everybody. It's not. It's not. I think personally, from a personal perspective, self-initiation is for people who've been raised in a culture around root workers intensely. That is their initiation. You see? Now, you might call it a self-initiation, but it's really not. It's if you've been around root workers in your family, 3 root workers, grandmama, granddad, and your uncle, and you've been around them for 20 years. Every day you get up, you're seeing them doing something, doing work. You're being initiated. Why? Remember, initiation is what? Training. It's not a ceremony. Ceremony is just part of it. It's the training that you receive that makes you transform yourself. It makes you transform yourself into your greater self, into a greater being. You see? So you ain't getting no power from that initiation. None. The power comes from the people that initiate you and how they teach you and put you on your path. No, oh yes, I'm fine. There's no initiation in root work now. We're just talking about the path of initiations in African traditions. Because root work, and let me clarify that. I'm glad you said that. And root working, at the present moment, I would say there is no initiation. Now, let me put some clarity on it. Because they are root workers that initiate people into their family secrets. Okay? I think it's a personal choice. Because anytime you're talking about your family secrets, hey, you have a right. You have a right to initiate people into your family secrets, being that they're not directly your bloodline. You have to form some type of pact with them, so that and have them form pact with your ancestral spirits. Because if you initiate somebody into your bloodline, and trust me, I'm not promoting initiations for hoodoo. I'm just dealing with what's there, what's already here. Because there are some root workers that will initiate you into their family bloodline, make you form a pact with their family spirits, so that you don't go out here revealing their secrets. And if you do, then you have to deal with whatever that circumstances of your pact is. You see? So in retrospect, because I ran across a few root workers, like official, root workers like, man, listen, I'm not teaching nobody, nothing. You want me to teach you, you got to come and get baptized by me. Hey, that baptism is initiation. So, and I totally get it. I totally get it. And I think that's a cool way for people to, a good way for people to maintain their secrets. You know what I mean? That's on them. And it's all about reorganizing root working, because people saying, well, it's not a religion, and that's a deep subject. You know what I mean? We say it's not a religion, but it's on all our minds. It's in all our hearts. So we got to be careful what we say a religion is. I really don't like using that word religion. I would rather prefer to use the word spiritual system, spiritual cultivation. Hoodoo is a spiritual system. It's a spiritual cultural system that is deeply embedded in our culture. You know what I mean? And it's deeply about our ancestors. So it's not a religion, it's a way of life. That's why when you go over to Africa, when you ask about Ifa, this is our way of life. Over here, we call it religion. In the books, they call it religion. But when you talk to Africans, this is their way of life. It's how they survive. You know what I mean? This is what they do spiritually. This is what they do for medicine. This is what they do to heal relationships. This is what they do to formulate societies. They use Ifa for all of that, because it's cultural. A religion doesn't do all of that. A religion doesn't give you the mandates to build a civilization. Religion don't do that. Religion don't give you the mandate on how to construct, run a family. They don't do that. They only talk about it on the surface levels. You see, so when we're talking about a system of spiritual cultivation, then we talk about root working, we're talking about Ifa, we talk about Apollo, systems that our ancestors used. to either fight oppression or systems that our ancestors used to build civilizations. So when we got hoodoo root working, which is a system used to combat oppression, it was created in America to combat oppression. So when we have that, and you merge the knowledge of hoodoo with the knowledge of Haitian voodoo, with the knowledge of Paulo Miyambe, with the knowledge of Ifa, all of it is African. You see? All of it. So when we merge the knowledge, the perspectives, the African perspectives of all of these different roots, because all of this is our roots. Like hoodoo is just not roots. Hoodoo is part of a bigger root system in America for African Americans. A lot of us think that hoodoo, that's our roots. No, it's not. It's more than that. Hoodoo is your roots. Voodoo is your roots. Ifa is your roots. Paulo Miyambe is your roots. All of these spiritual systems were brought over to America by Central and West African people, regardless of the hands that they are in now. They were brought over here by Central Africans, and they were brought over here by West Africans. You see? Now when it comes to voodoo, Haitian voodoo is awesome. We have Mama Iwata over here now in America. We already have Mama Iwata down there with Mama Zagbe down there in Savannah. And we got more Mama Iwata. You know, we got plenty Ifa. We got plenty voodoo. You know? And part of us reclaiming our heritage. You know, it's very important that we do that. Because when we root working and we come into these African traditions, it all goes together. Go together. Roots. All African traditions use roots. Name one African tradition that doesn't use a root or an herb. Name one African traditional ceremony that doesn't have herbs, spiritual baths, roots. See? So for many people inside traditional religions that don't want to respect the root worker, I'm like, why, Sway? Like, how you doing that day? Because half of the stuff, and I found out, don't want to say that on camera, please don't. But I'm going to say this. Root workers, I'm telling y'all, like, for real, y'all know a lot more than some people out there, okay? Your ability to make formulas and work with formulas and work with things that everybody else work with, the same things we working with, but it's our perspective that makes it different. Because we don't have a lot of other attachments to our workings, like people in traditions. You know, traditions have taboos. And I'm not saying that taboos are bad. Because taboos are good. Trust me. I've seen some people have taboos, not to eat seafood. And they went and ate the seafood, and the reason why the spirit said you shouldn't eat seafood, because you was allergic to it. You never knew. You see? So the spirits use taboos to warn us about things that's bad for us. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is. But hold up, I'm reading these questions. Do you feel initiations is necessary to develop? It just depends on the person's path. That's a good question. Initiation is not necessary. Okay, for everybody. There are some people born with it. Point blank, period. If you're born with it, and when I say born with it, I'm not mean, because anybody can say, oh, I was born with it. Born with it means you ain't got too many questions out there in these streets. You ain't got no questions. You ain't trying to call and find out things from this person, that person, because you so intuitively led that you don't even have the room to even talk to other people about this stuff, because the spirit's constantly educating you. You see? From within. No books, no nothing. That's how that works. You see what I'm saying? That's how that works for the most part when we talk about initiation. But some people need initiation because they're at the basis level. Like I said, some people born with it, some people not. Doesn't mean that somebody is bigger than the other. It just means that there's different levels of development in life. And so in my past life, for example, I may have been, who knows, a priest in my past life. That's why with my reincarnation, I'm back doing it again. You never know. Um, so what we do is with initiations, it's all about your path, where you're at right now. You know what I mean? So if you're in a stage of an infantile stage, baby stage of spirituality, then of course initiation would benefit you with the right teacher. Because I'm not going to promote initiation. I'm promoting teachings. You see? Now, if you're initiated and you get initiated, your initiation should be teachings behind it. Should be a whole lot of teachings. Because that's what it is. Initiation is a rite of passage. You're right. You ain't get no power from it, from the ceremony. The empowerment comes from the whole process of learning, not just the one ceremony you had. So, in order to develop spiritually, I think that most of you guys could benefit from initiation if you're under the right teacher. Yes, yes, yes. You definitely could benefit. But if it's necessary, no, you can learn. You can learn all kind of other things that don't require initiation. Because there are many systems that don't require initiation. Let me look at this next question. How do you get started in hoodoo? Getting started in hoodoo is working with your ancestors. Period. See, working with your ancestors. When you work with your ancestors, they will open up paths for you. They reveal things for you. Definitely. So when you talk about getting started in hoodoo, one of the main things you want to do is build your altar. Get your ancestral altar up and running. A lot of people are against altars and say, oh, you don't need an altar. You don't. You don't. But if you're trying to make a connection, it's just like a pair of shoes. Okay, the store is actually 1 block down the street. I don't have to put my shoes on to go there. I could walk there in my socks. If I choose to, right? Right. But then when I put my shoes on, what I got? A better experience. I ain't got to walk on no nails. I ain't got to walk on no glass. I ain't got to look out for no brick. I ain't got to look no tag. I ain't got to walk on nobody's spit. You know what I mean? So having on the shoes give us the comfort that we need as we travel. So building an altar, the ancestral altar, what it does is give us that comfort zone so we can develop our psychic abilities. You see? So you work on your ancestral altar for 2-3 years, doing all your readings and your work there, you're developing your psychic abilities. You're developing your connection with your ancestral spirits. See? So as your connection gets stronger, your altar gets stronger. Your spirits get stronger in your life. And possibly one day, you may outgrow the physical altar because the altar will go straight into your heart. But for now, build your altar, build your connections. Okay? Build your altar, build your connections, and connect with your ancestral spirits that way until you get efficient with what you're doing. And trust me, there's many levels to it. No, Sunfire, they don't got no Mommy Water in Charleston. They got it in Savannah, Georgia, though. Mama Zogbe, the Amangasi Society she got down there, Mommy Water Healer Society. Yeah, they down there big time. Trust me, big time. See what else we got out there. Oh, yeah, Christina, yeah, you know that. I be trying to stay away from the chaos magic conversation. You know what I mean? Because chaos. In order to work with chaos, and I'm going to say this real briefly, because we talking the path of initiation. But some people get initiated on the dark side, or what they appear to think this is the dark side. Like, for example, people think Paulo Mayombe is the dark side. Sorry, wrong. There's a lot of people in Paulo that actually would perpetuate that it is totally dark. Another lie. One of the things that we don't understand about Paulo is that it comes from Bantu people, Bantu civilization. Bantu people have a whole cosmology, many different cosmologies. One of the things that kind of stick out the most in Bantu cosmologies for me is the conceptualization of Kalunga. They talk about in the Spanish cultures, they call Kalunga, which is the correct African word for the spiritual force. They call Kalunga Madre de Agua. Waters, Madre de Agua. But in Africa, we call her Kalunga. Now, that's energy. But when we let's look at Madre de Agua, look at Kalunga. When we look at the word itself, Kalunga, Lungi means to teach, Lunga. Lungi means to teach. Okay? Lunga, it also means ocean. But it also means the abyss, the dark aspects of the ocean. You see? So when we look at the conceptualization of the Kalunga energy, it is the teaching, healing energy of the earth, right? The water spirit. Why? Why is the water spirit the highest spirit in African traditions? Why? Because the earth is 85% water. You 85% water. Water in your brain, water in your heart, water in your lungs, water in your blood, water in your bone, water this place, water that place, water everywhere. Water is the conduit of life. And this is why the water spirits in Africa, they deserve and they demand the most respect. That's why when you see the water spirits, you see Mami Wata, whole voodoo. Now, the thing about Mami Wata that's so unique about Mami Wata is that in like many places in Africa you go, you see the Mami Wata everywhere. You go to Northern Africa, they got Mami Wata up there. You go to West Africa, Mami Wata. East Africa, Mami Wata. Any place where there's water, there's Mami Wata. You see, what I'm saying is the water spirits play a very large part in our lives. What I'm saying is the Kalunga energy, Kalunga, to teach about the abyss, about the water. This energy, this abyss is more than just some spirit you send out. It's a principle. It's a conceptualization in your mind, in your heart that creates a reality of power for you. It's not about sitting here like no fool line. Oh, I'm going to send Kalunga out. No, Kalunga is already here. See? And many people have gotten away from that in African traditions. Many people have. They have gotten away from it. It's ancestral. It's about connecting with the ancestral energies of yourself. Because your ancestors are in you. In your DNA. Yeah, definitely email me, Tanil. Email me, medicinemale21@gmail for the classes. I'll be setting it up. I'm setting up the classes now. What I'm doing is redesigning my site, and I'm having everything on my website. So when you come in, you just kind of log into the website. We go straight to business with the classes. That'll eliminate any kind of technical difficulties I've been having in the past. I still got to get over this internet, man. It's just where I live. It's like the internet connection is kind of bad all across the board. But we working on that right now, and I probably, like I said, I'm doing the online class. I'll be doing it at the library where the internet is outstanding for the most part, and but that's what we're going to be doing. So yeah, hit me up at medicinemale21@gmail about the classes, and y'all be aware I'm having this boot camp down. My boot camp in Tampa, Florida, on the 26th and 27th of January. So we're going to be doing that live, Tampa, Florida, 26th and 27th of January. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be there. But back to what I'm talking about the Kalunga energy and the teaching and the abyss and the ocean. There is more to the spirits that sending spirits out. There's more to it. There are spirits in African traditions. It is a known thing that spirits connect themselves to different parts of your body. You see? You can get possessed by a spirit in your kidneys. Yes, you can. It's very common knowledge in Africa that your organs can get possessed by a particular spirit. From the medicinical aspect, this is how the medicine men in Africa, the Umungangas, this is how they do remedies on people. This is how they fix people's problems. They have spirits that govern certain aspects of your body. So when you come and say, "Oh, I got kidney pain in my kidney," they already know what spirit to go to because this particular spirit governs the kidneys. So this particular spiritual force tells the priest about the medicine. They receive the information about the medicines that need to be made to heal this person. Not get their relationship back, but to heal them. See? This is one of the main things, practices that we know about at Swamp Water Roots. From talking to all our brothers in Africa and all the priests in Africa, we've learned a whole lot throughout the years. This is not a new phenomenon. Throughout the years, we have learned how to approach our spirits and how to practice our African juju in America. You know what I mean? All right, y'all. If y'all have any more questions, man, feel free to ask me a question. But what we're talking about definitely is that Kalunga and connected with the energies. You know what I mean? And getting out of the mind state that spirits are just ghosts and stuff like that. No, you are a spirit, and within you is a spirit. You know what I mean? Within you is a spirit. There's a spirit in you. Learn to work your spirit. Learn to work the spirits for you first. Cindy Rose. Cindy, email me at medicinemail21@gmail. My readings are $85 for 1 hour. You got me in a video telling you about the readings. It's cool. But they're $85 for 1 hour reading, ancestral, whatever. We'll discuss it. Email me. So yeah, in the African traditions, man, we definitely know. We definitely know about certain things about, you know, there's an African technique, man. There's so many techniques of spirituality and spiritual science, man, that our brothers and sisters know in Africa and Cuba and other places. You'll be appalled at some of the things that you can actually experience. And I would advise people, when it comes to initiation, back to that topic, my favorite topic of the day. When it comes to that, I would personally say for me, um, I would not get initiated in America again. I would not personally. Me, no. I go to Africa or I go to Cuba and get it from an African. Um, and that's basically because of my experiences. I don't really too much care to tell it on YouTube, but because I know that people are watching and they're going to be mad again. But it is what it is. Um, it is what it is. I'm one of the type of people that definitely feel that we should restore our own bloodline lineages and all of our roots. No, not just hoodoo, all of it. We need to restore our bloodline lineage in voodoo. We need to restore our bloodline lineage in Paulo, and we need to restore our bloodline lineage in every system of spirituality that's here in America that came from our ancestors. Because what has happened is we have people that get the knowledge and they get the science and the culture from the custodians of the culture. Then they come to America, put their faces on it, and totally disregard everything that the religion and spirituality is about. And that's disrespectful. You know what I mean? But I'm not here to get into that part. But what I would say, very important for African Americans, definitely, to realign themselves back with their spiritual traditions, realign themselves back with their spiritual minds. Because if you're waiting on somebody else to just give it to you, they're not going to give it. You're going to have to take it. You're going to have to take it by force. And it is what it is. It ain't personal. It just is what it is because we have our traditions and we want them back.